Good afternoon and welcome to a very special edition of Take a Break, the Reddit Revolution. Today we look at the events leading up to this week's insane run on Wall Street and what happens next. GameStop's meteoric rise was brought on by an army of day traders, betting against some of Wall Street's most powerful firms. The goal? Artificially send shares higher in a show of force by Redditors on a forum called Wall Street Bets. Well, Wall Street Bets now boasts some 6 million followers, and in 30 minutes, we're going to chat with the founder of that Reddit group all about this life-changing week and how he wants this story to end. And of course, we want to give you the most useful information to understand the saga. We're going to break down what the experts have to say about investing when it comes to that FOMO that you could be feeling, including answering some questions that we got on Twitter and Instagram. It's January 29th. I'm Tim Stenovec in New York, and this is Take a Break, the Reddit Revolution. Let's get going. Good afternoon. We start today's coverage of the Reddit Revolution by trying to answer the question that many have right now. What the heck happened this week? Joining me now to help make a sense of the market mania is Bloomberg Markets reporter Sarah Ponczek, Wall Street reporter Sonali Basak, and senior markets editor John Authers, who has covered markets for over 30 years. Thank you all for being here. Sarah, I want to start with you. For people who haven't followed the story as closely as you have, what the heck has been happening?
A lot has happened this week, and this week has really felt like a year, I can say from my standpoint at least, as I'm sure for many too. But if you really think about it, what it boils down to is it's as if this war is almost being fought between, on one side, you have the quote-unquote Wall Street establishment, so hedge funds, short sellers. On the other side of that, you have retail traders, particularly those on the Wall Street Bets subreddit. And this war has really been waged in the stock market with stocks the likes of GameStop, AMC, headphone maker costs. It even bled into Build-A-Bear, Tootsie Roll at a time. I mean, it got pretty wild, pretty out there. And when you look at GameStop, part of the reason that these stocks are really the ones that are being targeted by the Reddit community is because they have very high short interest. So they're very heavily shorted by big names like Citron Research, for example, other hedge funds on Wall Street. And if you just look, if we catch us up to where we stand right now, GameStop shares are up some 1,700% this month alone. And we've also seen brokerages have to put restrictions on, take restrictions off. It's just been back and forth, back and forth.
Look, it's been absolutely wild. John Authers, come on in here, because you've been covering markets for more than 30 years. And when we take a step back and we look at what's happening here, is this going to be one of those historic weeks? Give us some context.
Yes, this is a remarkable week, which people are going to be talking about for years to come. I mean, there are one or two precedents for the technicalities of what happened. Volkswagen was very briefly the world's largest company after it had this epic short squeeze after Lehman. And you've got the example of two hedge funds titans doing this to each other when Carl Icahn tried to squeeze Bill Ackman out of his short on Herbalife a few years ago. But in terms of the breadth of the activity, the fact that it's been coordinated by true retail investors, often investing small amounts of money, and the sheer scale of what they've managed to wreak in terms of the share price appreciations that Sarah was just talking about, that there is nothing like this that I can ever think of as having happened before. This is a very exciting new phenomenon, and plainly anything that is new in markets carries with it very big risks that we've got to understand. Okay, well,
we're going to talk about some of those risks in just a second. I want to bring in Sonali Basak because she's got her ear to Wall Street and to some of the biggest banks. Sonali, what is the establishment saying about this week?
Well, what's funny is while there were definitely a group of hedge funds that were very much hurt by this, and there were a lot of hedge funds that had to rush and really cover their shorts because there was such contagion across the market about this, it's not that this event this week hurt Wall Street at large, right? Why is that? Because volatility tends to be good for a lot of these investment banks. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of Wall Street names in these stocks. For example, the big firms with big index providers, the BlackRocks, the Vanguards. Jason Mudrick is a distressed investor. He was a big investor in AMC, one of the names. Silver Lake, big private equity fund. So there are a lot of Wall Street names that won off.
Right. So it's kind of oversimplifying if we think about this in the sense of pitting the big guy against the little guy. John, talk about some of the risks here that you brought up. When you have a week like this, where we actually seen regulators already be asked about this and say that they're going to weigh in. What are the risks associated with market movements like this?
Well, first of all, there's malinvestment. GameStop is not worth $25 billion. I think, or whatever its current market cap is. It just isn't. It's going to fall at some point. Whoever is holding it at the point that it falls is going to lose a lot of money. Plainly, whenever you see misvaluations as big as this, there is a risk of loss of capital. And in this case, when we're talking about people using hedge funds, can lose money to their heart's content. Only very rich people are allowed to invest in them. They don't deserve protection. The kind of people who are doing this on Reddit, plainly, you get into this tension between libertarianism, letting the market rip, and paternalism of is it really okay to let these people lose money like this? But beyond that, there is the present risk of a bubble. The more that capital is distorted, the greater the risk that money is just starved from the areas of the economy that need it, and instead pours into the areas that don't. I don't think GameStop can use in the unlikely event that it does an equity issuance using its massive new PE ratio. I have no idea how it can productively use the equity capital it would raise. This is not efficient allocation of capital. Something is going wrong with the invisible hand. So there are risks there. Finally, and this isn't necessarily a financial risk, but it probably gets to the heart of the critical risk that we all face. This is being driven by really serious righteous anger by people who feel that this is the last they get the chance to revenge themselves for 2008. There is danger in such emotion. Greed is bad enough. When you're angry, I think we would all admit, you are most prone to do something stupid when you're angry, and a lot of people are angry at present. That's dangerous.
And adding on to this concept of risk, when we talk about risk, this is also why when you look at many of these brokerages, and Robinhood has really been in the middle of this all, but Interactive Brokers, E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, for example, why they had to put restrictions on their accounts and the likes of trading on margin, trading on options, just opening new positions in general. Vlad Tenev, for example, was on Bloomberg Television last night. It's come more so to light that if you actually break down what happened yesterday. So yesterday was the day that we saw these restrictions were in place. GameStop, AMC shares all fell. We had a sell-off. Sure, they're coming back today. But what it comes down to is the fact that when a trade is settling, it doesn't just magically happen. Instead, the shares sit somewhere for 2 days as the trade settles, and that's with what's called DTCC, so the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. Now, someone has to assume the risk for these shares. So when you have a stock like GameStop that one day is trading above $500 a share, and the next day could be trading at $100 a share or even less, the clearing corporations really demand that someone pay up and pledge collateral for the risks that they're going to have to take on. So Bloomberg reporting has shown there was a representative from the DTCC who didn't give exact numbers, but basically said that the amount of collateral that had to be pledged to these clearing corporations was about $7.5 billion more than what's usual. So there are a lot of nefarious statements and thinking that brokerages are doing this nefariously, a lot of conspiracy theories and theories out there, but it really does come down to the concept of risk, why this is all occurring.
And
go
John,
on.
yeah, actually, I had a question for you, John, because to Sarah's point here, the reason DTCC makes you post collateral is to really protect all these counterparties, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a concern in history, or should there be a concern about some of these brokerages becoming a more systemic risk, or potentially fears of them blowing up?
Yes. I mean, one rule of thumb as a veteran of 2008 is if you're even mentioning DTCC, if you even feel the need to put those initials together, you already have a problem. It's much the same as if you're even thinking about the plumbing in your house, that's already bad.
Right.
The fact that this is an issue, the fact that this vital plumbing for the system becomes a concern is crucial. And yes, one of the critical ways in which the collapse of Lehman Brothers turned so quickly into a systemic event was because there were prime brokerages who were left with very great difficulty knowing what to do about all the trades that they had that involved Lehman as a counterparty.
Right.
This is you really can freeze up the entire. We're not talking about, obviously Lehman is bigger in absolute terms and proportionate terms than the players that are involved this week. But the mere fact that this could happen raises the issue that we need to address.
And look, I think there were a lot of questions about the effect that it had on retail traders this week, because as we know, a lot of retail investors yesterday found themselves unable to do basic things on the apps like Robinhood and Interactive Brokers that they actually wanted to do. Sarah Ponce, come back in here because you had a Business Week story a few months ago. It was a cover story about the Robinhood revolution. Where does Robinhood go from here? Should they be concerned about potential reputational damage, given that this was supposed to democratize investing, democratize Wall Street, but yesterday so many traders found themselves unable to do basic things in the app?
They've already faced reputational damage. I mean, you look at the likes of, I'll mention Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports, who is saying that Robinhood is dead and tweeting at Vlad Tenev saying that he's going to go after him and that what Robinhood is doing is wrong. And you also have politicians like AOC, Ted Cruz, now tweeting about Robinhood saying that they're basically going after the little guy. This isn't fair. Hedge funds have been doing this for years. And Robinhood is obviously trying to push back against that fact and say, look, we are on your side. We came into the industry to help you to quote unquote democratize investing. That's what they say all of the time. And they're trying to make very clear that the decision that they made yesterday was not their choice. They were forced to do this. Still, though, the belief that there is something more nefarious going on, whether that be hedge funds, whether that be market maker Citadel, forcing them to do this is very widespread at this point in time, and many of their customers have already said that they want to go elsewhere. Still, though, if you look at the Apple Store, you look at the most popular app on the Apple Store yesterday, what was it? It was Robinhood. So people are still going to Robinhood, and name recognition is certainly high.
Look, the story is going to continue to go on. We are so lucky to have all of you, Bloomberg, Sonali Basak, Sarah Ponce, John Authers. Thank you all so much for your time and for your insight. That was a lot of fun. Well, coming up, the hype was real around some stocks this week, but don't let FOMO drive your investing strategy. Next up, what the experts are saying about making a sound investment decision that you won't regret, win or lose. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This is Take a Break.
Access the financial world on demand. Hear from leading economists, policymakers, and industry experts via live and on-demand webinars, only from Bloomberg. Start exploring to see what's moving the markets. Visit Bloomberg.com/webinars.
Our generation's biggest problem.
Climate change is happening.
And the world's most innovative solutions.
Transport, industry, buildings, electricity, all of those things.
Everything you need to know about our changing environment, the politics of global warming.
We can and we will deal with climate change.
In the fight against climate change, Bloomberg Green has you covered.
Welcome back to this special edition of Take a Break, the Reddit Revolution. I'm Tim Stenivec in New York. Okay, so let's say you started following the markets recently. You're read up on Investopedia articles. Now is it your turn to test out a few strategies? Well, joining me live from London is Bloomberg personal finance reporter Charlie Wells, who asks these very important questions to financial advisors on both sides of the Atlantic. Charlie, my friend, thank you so much for being here. I got to tell you, I got a lot of text messages this week. My brother said that one of his friends made $25,000 this week doing the GameStop thing. If you're feeling FOMO right now, what are advisors saying for those who are considering buying GameStop?
Funny you asked that question. I got my phone right here and a text from my brother as well saying, quote, some law school friends were trying to convince me to buy some shares a few weeks ago. Wish I had. So from my brother to your brother, I think there is a lot of FOMO out there. And what advisors that I've been calling all week, I've been on the phone with them, nonstop, is basically, two letters, N-O. Do not buy. Absolutely not. The words that they keep using with me are casino, lottery, luck, stop. Wow. That's literally what they're saying.
Okay, look, I want to be careful here. Of course, we are not giving financial advice, but that is why you spoke to those folks whose job it is to give that financial advice. What are they saying are the risks that come with the emotion of seeing these triple-digit increases in a single day for GameStop and other stocks, and then also just reading those stories about people who've turned hundreds into thousands and thousands into tens of thousands?
Right. So there's a sort of euphoric feeling right now. And I think what these advisors have also been telling me, and these are people who have literally signed fiduciary duties to look out in their client's best interest, is that we're at an interesting moment with the internet and investing. And so when you combine those two things, you get people who can share their investment decisions. And those people have not signed these fiduciary duties, and they are not necessarily looking out for your best interests. And they may be, boosting some of these shares that you haven't really heard about since the early 2000s for reasons that might not be great for you. And so that's one thing to think about. And another point that advisors kept making was just be careful about overconfidence. So we're all home. I'm home. We can do research. We have got a lot more time on our hands. And we can actually understand a lot of these trading principles better than maybe we expected. But just because we understand them doesn't mean that we should do them.
Charlie, what's the biggest mistake an investor could make with some of these stocks right now?
I think one of the things is believing some of this quote unquote research. So a lot of this conversation is happening in forums. There are people who are presenting, quote unquote research. But what advisors tend to say is kind of, second guess this. Look at this again. A lot of these commentators are smart, but they're picking up on sort of certain indicators that might make them sound like they really know what they're talking about. But compared to, say, institutional investors, to hedge funds, they don't have that sort of inside information that some of the main players actually do have to help them make some of these decisions.
Charlie, we got to get our brothers in touch with each other so they can compare stories about missing out. Bloomberg personal finance reporter Charlie Wells. Charlie, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it. Well, coming up after the break, we chat with a new investor, and we mean really new, who happened to stumble upon a Reddit thread that compelled him to buy GameStop at $65 a share. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This is Take a Break.
Access the financial world on demand. Hear from leading economists, policymakers, and industry experts via live and on-demand webinars, only from Bloomberg. Start exploring to see what's moving the markets. Visit Bloomberg.com/webinars.
Our generation's biggest problem.
Climate change is happening.
And the world's most innovative solutions.
Transport, industry, buildings, electricity, all of those things.
Everything you need to know about our changing environment, the politics of global warming.
We can and we will deal with climate change.
In the fight against climate change, Bloomberg Green has you covered.
It was a week for memes this time. Look, it was another big week for memes. This time, they're focused on the market. We're going to be showing you a few of these throughout the show today. Welcome back to this very special edition of Take a Break, the Reddit Revolution. I'm Tim Stenevec in New York. Well, the retail trading industry exploded well before the GameStop frenzy this week. Sonali Basak has more on the rise of Reddit and Robinhood traders.
The frustrations with Wall Street are running high. What started as a way to share stock tips is now a revolution. The wealthiest 1% of Americans now account for more than half of the stock ownership by U.S. households. And during this pandemic, while Wall Street has gotten richer, the same is not true for everyone else.
You're witnessing the French Revolution of finance, where the proletariat is rising up to change the order structure in finance.
Zero-fee trading on Robinhood and other brokerages have made it much easier for investors to access the stock market. Retail investors accounted for about 25% of the stock market trading on the busiest days last year. That's up from about 10% a decade ago. The retail rush reached a new level this year, with Reddit chat room Wall Street bets drawing attention to highly shorted stocks like GameStop and AMC. Trading on options have reached historic levels, and those particular stocks soared dramatically. The frenzy is catching many of Wall Street's biggest investors off guard, as well as many short sellers.
I cannot answer one more phone call. How are you? Are you okay? Are you in business? What about GameStop? Should I short it here? People I have not spoken to in 20, 30 years. This has captured the attention of the America and every trader and non-trader alike.
Wall Street is dismissing many of these new investors as pajama traders or kids that don't know what they're doing. But many of these stocks like GameStop, AMC, and Bed Bath & Beyond that have surged have caused billions of dollars worth of losses for some of the biggest hedge funds that have bet against them.
The establishment, I think, has to stop whining about Wall Street bets and the ability of individual investors to express their opinions on forums that we may not like or understand, or most of them don't traditionally follow. You know, think about from the position of someone on a Wall Street bets forum. For years, established hedge funds, players have been able to express freely their investment opinions in things like conferences, in mediums like television, through print media, and new entrants should be afforded those same rights, and that's exactly what they're doing.
The frenzy in stocks also comes with a lot of concerns. One of them is that we're in a bubble, and people could lose a lot of money in the end. Another concern is that brokerages like Robinhood or TD Ameritrade have clamped down on trading in some of these stocks, drawing outrage and potentially more attention from regulators. U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said Congress should take a look at why Robinhood has stopped investors from trading some of these stocks, while hedge funds on Wall Street can buy and sell these stocks freely. Senator Elizabeth Warren said regulators should take a harder look at hedge funds that are using the stock market as their personal casino, while everyone else pays the price. What's clear is that from Wall Street to Main Street to Washington, the war is not over.
Well, a big thank you to Sonali Basak, Matthew Albany, and Kayla Shea for that. Coming up after the break, why Reddit and GameStop, a match made in investment heaven. Plus, we're going to chat with the founder of that now famous Wall Street Bets forum. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This is Take a Break.
Access the financial world on demand. Hear from leading economists, policymakers, and industry experts via live and on-demand webinars, only from Bloomberg. Start exploring to see what's moving the markets. Visit Bloomberg.com webinars.
Our generation's biggest problem.
Climate change is happening.
And the world's most innovative solutions.
Transport, industry, buildings, electricity, all of those things.
Everything you need to know about our changing environment, the politics of global warming.
We can and we will deal with climate change.
In the fight against climate change, Bloomberg Green has you covered.
GameStop sitting amongst Tesla and Amazon after Reddit users make it a Fortune 500 company. Look at Big Bird right there. That's a meme coming from Jordan Deeb on Twitter. Welcome back to this special edition of Take a Break, the Reddit Revolution. I'm Tim Stenevec in New York. Well, for some retail traders, getting in on the GameStop mania this week turned out to be just a coincidence. Like this next guest here with Bloomberg Quick Take reporter Jennifer Zabasaja. Hey, Jen.
Hey, Tim. I want to bring in our guest today, Dara Keeney. Dara became a first-time trader this week, and he's joining us now from Dublin to share his perspective about the week that was. Dara, thanks so much for joining us. I mean, I just want to put this into context a bit for everybody. You've been an investor for what, all of a week? I mean, why did you decide to get in to this whole thing?
Well, I just need to correct you on your facts there, Jennifer. I've only been an investor for 6 days, actually. Tomorrow is the big anniversary. I'm really excited about it. I've always had an interest in the idea of dabbling in trading, but it just seems like such a far away world for me. I always like if ever I had money set aside, it would never be a huge amount of money. Or if I had some money sitting in a bank account, I thought maybe I could put it into stocks and shares, but I don't know enough about the world. I don't have enough to be considered a player or to have the confidence to go into a brokerage and say, here's five figures. Show me what you got. Help me make some money on this, whether it's short term or long term. It's so far from my world right now, but I just decided, you know what, this is the week to try.
So how exactly did that work? I mean, were you aware of what was going on? Tell us a bit about the story.
Okay, well, aware of it? Absolutely not. No. So on Saturday morning, I woke up a bit earlier than planned, and I turned on my phone, and one of the group's chats that I was in, a friend had said, yeah, he was reading something on Reddit about GameStop and how something could happen big this week, and he's going to go in on it. And he was kind of saying, look, I'm never going to give you full-time advice, and there's no conditions on this. I can't guarantee it, but there's something exciting happening. If you're in any way inclined, maybe you should all think about dipping in. Or there's people on that group who are actually serious players, and they operate in that world. So maybe he was kind of saying, look, this is a chance to make some money. But I'm lying in bed. I haven't got out of bed yet. And I'm thinking, do you know what? This might be the chance. So I'm thinking, how do I do it? Oh yeah, that banking app that I have. There's a stocks page on that. So I opened up the app and I looked into it, and lo and behold, there is a stocks page. I'd never been on that page before. And I said, right, I'll set up an account. And there are loads of documents. Didn't read one of them. I just ticked them all. About 5 or 6 documents. Tick, yeah, read that. Tick, done that. And within 3 minutes, I had myself a trading account. And I transferred over what I thought was €200 at the time, but it turns out it was $200 because all the trading was done in dollars. Again, that was brand new to me. And so then I thought to myself, right, I have it up and running now. I'll buy some GameStop shares. Of course, even at that stage, I didn't even know what the ticker was or what the acronym was for GameStop. So I had to get out of the app and Google that. Found out it's GME. I know it very well now. And searched for GME and found out that it was $65 a share. I've got $200. To me, that makes sense. Put it all on GME. I'll get 3 shares. I'll get $5 back. I don't even know if this works, but everything's going to be fine. I hit buy, and I got a notification straight away going, we've put it to the market. When the market opens on Monday morning, we'll come back to you with your shares. And I'm like, oh, right, of course, it's the weekend. There's no trading. Again, that's brand new to me. And forgot all about it. And on Monday, lunchtime, Irish time, which about 2:30 when the markets opened in America, I got another notification to say, congratulations, you've just made your first purchase. You have 2 shares of GME at $97. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. I thought it was $65. Had to ask my friends, what's going on here? And it turns out that the action over the weekend had pushed it up. So the opening price was different to the closing price on Friday. Again, that's very new to me. And I think even if I'd been given an option at that stage, Jennifer, I probably would have said no, because I felt I was being hard done by. I was $97 a share. This is way too much for me. It's only 2 shares now all of a sudden. But no, it didn't give me that option. It just bought it for me. So I was the new proud owner of 2.05 shares in GME. And that's how my trading career began.
Wow. And so since then, I mean, have you just been watching the news nonstop? I mean, have you been following everything that's been going on?
Tuesday was a big night Tuesday was a big day for GameStop. And instead of sitting on the couch with my wife watching Bridgerton, we were wrapping up Bridgerton on Netflix. Instead of watching what was going on the screen, I just found myself, I was just on my phone, refreshing the app all night long. Couldn't get my eyes off it. It just kept on going up and going up. And it's just a big story. It's gone around the world. And obviously, I'm a tiny, tiny part of that. I only bought $200. It seems weird that I'm now talking to Bloomberg about it. It was such a small investment, which for me, though, at the time, I was like, oh, what will I put in? Like, should I just buy 1 share? Could you buy? I didn't even know if you could buy fractions of shares. I honestly thought I was going to get $5 back, change, by the way, from that initial investment. Yeah. I didn't realize you could buy a portion of a share, and it was based down onto the amount of money I put in. I was learning. It was all brand new to me. But I'm part of the narrative. Like, it's a $200 investment on my behalf. But there's 10,000, there's probably more than 10,000 Darrakinis around the world who are making that investment for the first time. And they don't have to walk into a brokerage anymore or a big company, and they don't have to have a minimum of 5 figures to be let past reception. It's on an app. I had done all this in 7 minutes before I even got out of bed on Saturday morning. And as I said, I know I'm a tiny player, and I know there's lots of people losing money, and I know it's a much bigger deal for the target audience over there in America, but it's very exciting. Like, I'm a first-time trader, kind of got hooked, not going to lie to you.
I also want to know, because I know you said you have some friends who have been on some of these messaging boards. There's been a lot of chatter about sort of the underpinnings of what's happening. What is the chatter like? Like, what are you hearing?
Well, look, I'm not a player on Reddit. I don't have an account. I've never made a comment or can you like comments? I've never contributed. I've literally been an outsider looking in. The comments even yesterday, Thursday was a bad day for the share price. It was going down. It was tanking. People were panicking. I even ended up selling one of my 2 shares yesterday, thinking I was going to lose it all. But all the talk was hold. You've probably seen it yourself. Like, the people who know what they're talking about, they'll do a big post on Reddit, and people will like it and comment and go, no, he knows what he's talking about. I don't even understand it, to be honest, Jennifer. I'd love to be able to give you some inside knowledge, but everyone is saying, hold out. There's more to come next week. I know there's lots of I read something about how we're going to, the people, the crowdfunding, the mob rule, we're going to try and get it to $1,000. But like, you read other people who know what they're talking about in this world, and they're saying you shouldn't be valuing a GameStop share for anything more than $15, $18, maybe 20 max. And the fact that I think it peaked at 470 this week, and some people think it can go even higher. I'm not gonna hang around all day for it. It's not something. This isn't a career change for me.
When are you going to get out? I mean, do you want to collect these profits? At what point are you going to decide to do that?
I'm going to hold on, Jennifer, because look. I'm not betting with other people's money here. I'm not investing. I'm not a company where I've got big clients coming in with their savings looking to make money. It's not on me. I don't have any of that guilt. I've already taken out some money yesterday. I sold 1 share. It was a panic sale. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm kind of regretting it now when I look at the stock price. But I didn't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. So I've already made a few quid out of that. I'm quids in. I'm already up. So whatever happens over the coming days and weeks, it's all profit for me. So I'm going to hang on in there. Like a lot of the people all over Reddit and the live chat on YouTube, it's crazy what you see when people know what they're talking about. They're saying, no, this is why it tanked on Thursday. hold in there Friday and see into next week. I might get out by close of business tonight, I don't know. But at the moment, I'm planning on holding on because, as I said, this is a small, minute fraction of a big amount of money, and I'm happy to hang in there.
If anything, it's a learning experience for you, right, Dara?
Very, very much. I'm going to buy some new art with my profits, Jennifer, as you can tell.
I can see that behind you. Dara Keeney for us in Dublin today. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story. Tim?
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jen. What a fascinating story. I love his excitement, too, of course. So enthusiastic. A big thank you to Bloomberg Quick Take reporter Jennifer Zabasaja for that conversation. Well, it's time now for Quick Takes by the Numbers. It's where we give you the numbers that tell the story. This afternoon's number is 6 million. The Reddit forum Wall Street Bets, where it's looking like this GameStop madness all began, has now topped 6 million users. That's up from just about 3 million earlier this month, according to Dow Jones. Talk about to the moon. Well, in 2012, Jamie Rogozinski started a Reddit thread, a community for day traders to learn and play with stock options. Fast forward to 2021, that Reddit thread would fuel a rally so astronomical that hedge funds would lose $14 billion in a single day. Jamie now joins me. Jamie, thanks so much for being here. Look, what has this week been like for you?
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for having me. And it's been interesting. I'd say yesterday and today have really been the crazy days. Obviously, a lot of requests for interviews. And it's not the first time that Wall Street Bets has made the news. Certainly this magnitude, it's the first time. And it's also the first time, not the first time that I've been in the press. So it's thankfully not something that's entirely foreign. But the magnitude of the story is overshadowing any of my personal experiences this week. I mean, I'm baffled by what we're seeing. I'm amazed. It's a very interesting story, and it's one that I'm following very closely. 6
million members of the forum right now. Did you ever expect that when you started it would grow to be that big?
You know, the forum has been doubling in size for the first 8 years, and just to be clear, I'm no longer a moderator as of April of last year. But every year it had doubled in size pretty predictably, and this year apparently seems to be blowing this out of the water. I mean, I know that on all the other social media platforms that we're on, like on Twitter and YouTube, the number of followers and interests is growing in an astounding manner. So no, I did not anticipate that, at least not so quickly, and not with an event so spectacular.
You've got some attention of some huge names. Elon Musk, of course, wealthiest man in the world. Chamath Palihapitiya, Cathie Wood of ARK Investments. What do you have to say to them right now?
I mean, yeah, they're chiming in from a perspective that I don't think anyone ever anticipated or planned. You know, everyone that's been involved with Wall Street Bets is always just trying to make some money or have some fun with the market, just like this gentleman that was interviewed before I came on. That's a decent profile of it. What ends up happening is, as these guys pull off this spectacular trade that continues to unfold, they take out this fund, and the dialogue kind of changes, right? The narrative is very inviting, and there's a bit of a poetic justice feel to it, where the little guy is beating the big guy. And that's where you're getting attention from these high-profile individuals, as well as from politicians, right? I was surprised to find out that AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Ted Cruz, and I guess Donald Trump Jr., who's not in the government but still kind of has a voice for it, they all agree on this situation, right? Like, for the first time, they're holding hands. That's to me something that's pretty amazing, and I think it's because it's starting a conversation that is overdue.
Well, so what do you think the result of that conversation should be? I mean, as an early participant in this, as the founder, I mean, do you think that there needs to be regulation around what we saw happen this week?
Look, I definitely think that the conversation needs to be had. You know, we've had many moments in the recent history of the U.S. where changes take effect. You know, I'm thinking about gay marriage rights or marijuana legalization. It all starts with a conversation like this, and it leads to a process of democracy. I don't know where it leads. I don't know that it's regulation, right? So some people are taking the perspective of regulation. You know, this is wrong. These prices are incorrect. I agree. I haven't fully made up my mind as to whether this is outright manipulation the way that it's defined, or pump and dump the way that it's defined. But I do agree that there's something strange going on. But even before this, a lot of strange things were going on. So I think there needs to be some regulation. that strengthens the system of Wall Street. What we saw yesterday with the brokers that had to cancel trading shows the weakness in this. And I also feel that there needs to be regulation to be able to empower the individuals. For too long, the big investment firms, the big Wall Street players have had all the control, and I think that there needs to level the playing field.
Well, to that end, I think a lot of people have been wondering what the goal for Wall Street Bets users are. I know you're not affiliated with it anymore, but are they trying to take down Wall Street? Are they money hungry? I mean, you started it, so what is the collective goal of the thread?
I did, and I've done many things in the history to try and instigate these types of conversations by doing very outlandish things. I was, before coronavirus, planning on doing this esports style trading competition where we literally turned this activity into a video game, but we're using actual money in the real stock market, hoping to spark a little bit of this. I personally don't have a necessary goal, but I definitely wanted people to be able to see the ludicrousness of some of the things that are possible. And I also don't think that Wall Street Bets had a big plan in mind. It's a disorganized structure. I think that this narrative is starting to construct. The moment this Melvin Capital went down, that's when people realized that they have the ability to change. But I don't know if it's to take down Wall Street. They're also participating. Anyone that touches Wall Street wants to make money. That's how, that's the end of the story. And they can't take out the other guys because then they can't make money either.
And one of the realities is not everyone who touches it ends up making money. We saw some big stories of some massive losses this week, especially earlier in the week with some hedge funds. I anticipate, Jamie, just because of the way things are going, that we are going to start seeing stories of some retail investors who've lost money on this or will lose money on this. How do you feel knowing that you helped create a forum where this was possible? I mean, do you feel bad for anyone who's lost money?
Look, I agree with you, absolutely. And Wall Street Bets is one of the few places where showing loss of money is not a shameful thing, and it's not necessarily a badge of honor, but it's welcome. People have this refreshing sense of honesty. So you will be seeing some of those stories. The fact is, since the stock market's invention, for every time there's a trade, you have a person that or a party that makes money and a party that loses money. It is a zero-sum game if you're just looking at the dollars and cents and not going too abstract. So there's nothing new here, right? So if we're talking about more people that are participating and more people that can make and lose money, I don't really feel much about that. I'll be honest with you. My personal opinion, when someone loses a lot of money, I kind of feel a little bit bad, but they're all adults, they're responsible. And I feel good about the fact that they're spreading the word that this is still a risky venture. What's much more dangerous and makes me lose a lot more sleep is when people make a lot of money in a high-profile way, because then people forget about the risks and then they start dreaming and then they can fall into a trap.
I want to get your thoughts on you said you've gotten a lot of calls this week. In the Wall Street Journal profile of you, I saw that Andrew Leff from Citron Research has called you. We learned this morning Citron Research is discontinuing its short-selling research after doing this for decades. Who else has reached out to you this week?
A lot of people.
Big names?
A lot of people. Big names from a lot of different industries, from a lot of different places.
Who are some of those big names?
I can't tell you.
Hedge fund managers?
You name the industry and they've reached out.
Are you going to work with them?
I have my job. I've always had my job. Like Wall Street Bets has always kind of been a hobby. I tried to make I'm telling you, this trading competition last year and hopefully make a project out of that. But coronavirus did what it did to the whole world. I don't plan on changing my trajectory. If opportunities arise, I'll explore them. But I'm happy with what I do.
Okay, last question, Jamie. As we heard from John Authers, who's watched the market for decades, this is an absolutely historic week. Years from now, there could be courses and books written about what happened this week. There could even be a movie. If there's a movie, who plays you?
I don't know. I guess I'll have to cast that out there. I haven't really thought about that.
All right, we'll let the Twitterverse decide that.
That sounds like a good thing.
Maybe, maybe. Jamie Rogozinski, founder of Wall Street Bets. Jamie, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Well, coming up, what do GameStop employees think of their company all over the news this week? Well, we went to a store to find out. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This is Take a Break.
Access the financial world on demand. Hear from leading economists, policymakers, and industry experts via live and on-demand webinars, only from Bloomberg. Start exploring to see what's moving the markets. Visit Bloomberg.com/webinars.
Our generation's biggest problem.
Climate change is happening.
And the world's most innovative solutions.
Transport, industry, buildings, electricity, all of those things.
Everything you need to know about our changing environment, the politics of global warming.
We can and we will deal with climate change.
In the fight against climate change, Bloomberg Green has you covered.
Welcome back to this special edition of Take a Break, the Reddit Revolution. I'm Tim Stenivec in New York. While the drama over GameStop unfolded on Reddit and Twitter, its brick and mortar stores were business as usual. Quick Take's Arawa Uku headed out to her local GameStop in Oakland, California to see what the store's customers are making of the headlines.
Members of a subreddit group have been going to war this week with some of the world's richest hedge fund managers over this. GameStop is one of the world's largest video game retailers for PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and much more. But lately, they've struggled with just how easy it is for customers to download games directly to their computers and consoles. Now, I'm about to go inside of my local GameStop to see what people are making of this news, and while it has a nice coat of paint, you wouldn't be able to tell that this store was valued at $23 billion. But let's see what folks are shopping for.
I was shopping today to look for a gift for my son. I'm just looking for Pokemon cards.
I'm shopping for a PlayStation 2.
GameStop has made headlines this week. Are you familiar with why?
Yeah, I seen that they were making headlines with the stock and it blowing up, just going crazy.
The stock price surge, I have no clue about. I do know Bitcoin is going up quite a bit.
Yeah, that number seems really, really high.
For GameStop hitting that big number, I think it tells me that big things are to come. But again, I'm not highly educated on the reasons as to why.
It seemed like some of that money could be going to, should be going to a good cause. Like maybe they can contribute to, the vaccinations,
No, I don't really care too much about what happens on the stock market, but I'm glad to hear, though, that, things are going well for the company, so that's good.
I mean, a lot of people play games. I mean, it's a lucrative investment these days. With everybody staying home, I guess gaming is on the rise.
I wouldn't be surprised because everybody's into gaming, even folks my age.
My thoughts on GameStop being around much longer, I would say yeah. There really isn't much more other stores to kind of get your video game stuff for.
This right here just concentrates on what you came here for. I think they'll be around for a long time, especially at times like now, because we're in a pandemic. So many kids are at home, and so many other people are discovering games.
I mean, it's just great. You got all the games.
I'm looking to revisit games like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon.
You like that game?
Yeah, vintage stuff. So just want to go back in time for a little bit, just visit the childhood.
Yeah, I don't think GameStop has a future. I think it's all going to be digital at some point. I love coming here, so hopefully it's still around.
The news about GameStop and the stock, it doesn't change anything for me personally. As a consumer, I'm always going to want to come here if I'm looking for anything video game related for myself or my kids.
Our thanks to Arawa Uku for that report. Well, coming up next, you asked and we're going to answer. Our markets reporter, Sarah Ponczek, answers this week's most frequently asked questions for people with little market exposure. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This is Take a Break. following this story. We have lots of questions for you. They asked us the questions on Instagram. We got them on Instagram. But I got to ask you this basic question before we get to those. Why should somebody who's not like a regular participant in the market, who doesn't follow the market story week to week, why should they care about what happened?
So one, I've got to say, my group texts were also blowing up this week, and a lot of people who don't typically pay attention to markets.
But they're texting the right person.
Yeah, I'm not answering their questions. But why should people beyond those participating in the stock market pay attention to this? John Authers got into this a little bit earlier on in the show. And it's that this is almost a cultural moment. We think about a decade ago and the Occupy Wall Street movement. It was a movement that really came back to the concept of economic inequality, and that's really what the basis of this is, or at least that's what a lot of people want you to believe. For example, if you were to go on Wall Street Bets, there are many posts about experiences that users had back in 2008 during the financial crisis, how they came to really be angry with the Wall Street establishment and hedge funds, especially hedge funds who are taking active short positions and hoping that a company will fail. So what this really boils down to is this cultural moment where there's this tug of war between what some look at as the little guy, the retail trader, and the big guy, the Wall Street establishment. And at the same time, it's not just traders and those on Reddit, on Twitter who are paying attention. I mean, you've got big politicians, you've got the SEC. I mean, there are multiple people paying attention now.
Sarah, one question that we got in a lot of different ways was about short selling. I think a lot of people understand the concept of buying a stock at a certain price, holding it for a period of time, and then selling it for more or for less. But we heard a lot about shorting this week with regard to hedge funds that had shorted certain stocks like GameStop. So very basic question. What is a short?
So I'll explain it to you this way. One, in order to short a stock, it has to be done in a margin account because you're borrowing that stock from someone else. So the way this works is a short seller will borrow a stock from someone who holds the stock, and they hope that they will be able to sell the stock and buy it back at a cheaper price. So say you short a stock, you borrow it at $80 a share, it falls to $11, and you are able to buy it back at $11. You profit that difference. You profit on the stock falling that way. Then at the end of it, you return the stock back to the person you borrowed it from. So you have to borrow the stock, and essentially you profit from the differential between the price you borrowed it at and what you eventually sell it at.
And the flip side of that is if the stock price doesn't fall, like we saw with GameStop this week, you get squeezed.
Right, you have unlimited losses if a stock is rising, if you are short the stock, which is exactly what happened with these hedge funds this week, and they lost billions of dollars.
Okay, question now from a lot of people. A lot of people ask this one: is it wrong for a group of people, let's say friends, to buy stocks together after discussing it on forums?
You mean the legal question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a big one. Technically, and it's a really difficult question for securities lawyers, for the SEC. If you're just getting together with a group of friends and you all say, hey, let's buy this stock at this time together, technically there's nothing illegal about that. It's really only illegal if there's false information being spread or non-public information.
All right, very good stuff. Sarah Ponczek, thank you so much for breaking it all down. We have so many more questions that we couldn't get to. Unfortunately, we are out of time. That's going to do it for Quick Take this hour. Check out the latest stories at Bloomberg.com or at Quick Take on social media. I'm Tim Stenovec. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you at 4:30.